month of Kislev, which means that it is Erev Rosh Chodesh, and Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we have a Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, and Chanukah coming up this evening. However, before we get there, we have to get to the end of our Amud for today, and there is a lot of action going on in our Amud. We left off a couple of lines before the end of Ayin Zayin Amud Aleph, in order to be able to say this whole sugya together. The first word on the line is the word achilos. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines up from the bottom of Ayin Zayin Amud Aleph, where the Gemara wants to suggest as follows, starting from the word nema. Says the Gemara, nema masnisin. Let us say that our Mishnah is not, according, we will see in a moment, according to the opinion of Rabbi Yoshua. And I'm just copying the link here to send out to Chavra. Here we go. Done. Excellent. Okay. So says the Gemara as follows. Since the local Rabbi Yoshua, maybe our Mishnah is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yoshua. Just to review, our Mishnah told us that there are 5 things that are brought even in a state of tumah, and they're not eaten in a state of tumah. Now, we're only going to get to the rejection, or at least to the question against Rabbi Yoshua in a bit. So hold on to that premise that we're getting back to. But we need a little bit of a prerequisite understanding here. Says the Gemara as follows. The time you have a brisa that says as follows. You're going to do your oilus, the basar and the dam. Those are the 2 things. Those are the pasuk and the oilus, you have the basar and the dam. Rabbi Yeshua says, if there is no blood, for whatever reason, if there is no blood, and we'll explain what that means, ein basar, then there is no flesh. If there's no flesh, there's no if there's no blood, there's no flesh. Im ein basar, ein dam. And if there is no flesh of the korban, then there's no dam of the korban. Meaning that if either of them became tameh, the other one is not used. One becomes tameh, the other one is now possible. Rabbi Eliezer says, dam afal pishein basar, the blood is still thrown into the mizbech, even if there is no basar. Shenem, the pasuk says, v'dam zvachecha yishafech, that the blood of your korban should be spilled out, should be poured out onto the mizbech. So then what am I going to do with the pasuk that says that you're going to make your oilus basar and dam to teach you the same way that the dam has to be thrown onto the mizbech, the basar also has to be thrown onto the mizbech, meaning there is a mitzvah of zrikas adam, to throw the blood onto the mizbech. The basar of the korbanos also are not put on top of the mizbech; they are thrown into the mizbech. They have to be airborne for some period of time. That's a din midaraisa. Omer, and that is why we say lul katan yesh bein kavas mizbech, that there was a little gap. There was a little gap of Rashi says of airspace between the ramp. The ramp led up to the mizbech, and then here's the line of the ramp, and then there was a little bit of airspace between that and the mizbech over here. So the kohen would get to the top of the ramp, and then he would throw the korban over the airspace. What exactly is the purpose of this airspace? What did it do here? So the Tosfos here points out that it was the purpose of that airspace was not because it needed to be there for the sake of throwing it. It's that when the kohen got to the top, that airspace reminded him that this needs to be thrown, meaning that the korban needs to be airborne. That's what the Tosfos says. So you could fulfill the mitzvah of zrika even without that airspace. That's why they made the airspace. That because there's an airspace, they'll remember that this needs to be an airborne korban. Says 2 lines from the bottom of the page. According to Rabbi Yeshua, this is also true. Does the pasuk not say that the blood has to be spilled on the mizbech? Meaning, Rabbi Yeshua says that in basar in dam in basar, but he also holds v'dam zvachacha yishafech, that the blood has to be spilled. So what does he do with that pasuk? Amalachai is going to say to you, haksiv gabei, it is written next to it, right next to it. The pasuk says v'habasar techel, that you have to eat the flesh. So now you have a problem. Vahani trei kroi lamali. Why do I need these two psukim? According to Rabbi Yeshua, both of these psukim tell me that you have a pasuk that says "Vasisa alesecha habas v'hadam." You're going to make the olis basar and dam, and then you have a pasuk that says "Dan zevchecha yishafech" and habasar teichal. Vahani trei kroi lamali. Why do you need these two psukim? Why do you need these two psukim? According to Rabbi Yeshua, who holds that if you don't have one, you don't have the other one. So obviously, these two psukim are not necessary because the pasuk says now you know that one doesn't go without the other. Why do you need two more psukim about what to do with them? Says Rabbi Yeshua, chad ba'olah v'chad b'shlamim. You need one pasuk to teach you that this is the din of an olah, and you need the other pasuk to tell you that this is the din of shlamim, meaning pasuk is spelling this out further because there are different dinim. It's the same din even for different karbanos. And you need this. If the Torah would only have said about the olah v'asisa olah secha, havas v'adam, if only by olah, I would have said olah hu dechamira. Olah is much more machmir shekein kolel because it's burnt up on the mizbeach. Aval shlamim, but with regards to shlamim delay chamiri, that's not so chamer. It's not so machmir. It's not all burnt up. Maybe I would say no. That's not the case. We've seen this a few times that there's that tadir and kolel are two chumras that exist by olah, or certainly tadir by olah stamid. But kolel certainly. What's the chumra by shlamim? V'i kasav rachman shlamim. If the Torah would only have said about shlamim that habasu toichel and dam zvachecha is talking about shlamim. Dam zvachecha yishafech and abasar toichel. So that those two dinim, if it only would have said about shlamim, I would have said adarabah. On the contrary, the isbu shtei achilas, because shlamim has two eatings, meaning the mizbeach eats from the korban and the balim eats from the korban. Maybe in this case, the Torah is much more machmir that if you're missing one, you can't have the other one. If you're missing dam, if dam becomes possible, then utame, then you wouldn't be able to have. The meat, and if the meat became tamei, you wouldn't be able to have the adam. Therefore, the Torah says for both. But maybe you would have said by olah, which doesn't have two achilas. Maybe the din wouldn't be the same. Kamash malan, that the din is in fact the same. That you need both basar and dam to be tahar the whole way through in order for any of them to be usable. Rabbi Eliezer nami haksiv. Doesn't Rabbi Eliezer also hold that the pasuk says the meat needs to be eaten? So what is he going to do with this additional pasuk? That's to tell you that the meat is not allowed to be eaten until the blood is thrown onto the mizbeach. Meaning, until the blood is thrown, nobody gets to eat anything. You have to have zrikas adam first. If this is well, then maybe all of these psukim are coming to tell you that din. Maybe it's all coming to tell you that din, and you can't learn anything else from this. Says the Gemara, Dam sham basar minal. Where's he going to learn the din that the blood can be thrown in the mizbech even if there's no basar? Because the whole thing now is telling me that this din is that the basar can only be eaten after zrikas adam. Rabbi Eliezer will say to you, Im kain, if this is so nichtav rachmano habasar toichal, then the Torah should have written it in such a way that says the meat will be eaten, v'hadar, and then tell me that the blood of the sacrifices should be poured out. Like it says at the beginning, meaning you make your olas. The pasuk says before you make your olas habasar, the thing that you're going to eat, v'hadam, the thing that gets thrown on the mizbeach. That'll tell me that each one can work independently of the other one. The fact that the Torah is coming to tell me now, first habasar that dam zochecha yishafech, and then habasar techel, tells me that something is switched here, and that out of ordinance tells me that there is an additional din to learn. Ma'ishna de akdeme dam ledam zochecha. Why does the Torah preempt? Meaning, put first the din of dam zvachacha, shmamina, to teach you dam aval pi she'en basar, ushmamina she'en basar mutar ba'achila ad sheyizar kadam. There's two dinim here. Din number one is that that the meat cannot be eaten until zrikas adam, and also that they are being that the din is Dam alphabisha and basar basar alphabisha and dam. Meaning that these things are independent. If one becomes tameh, you can still use the other one. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yeshua, Ein habasar ba'achila ad sheyizak adam. According to Rabbi Yeshua, this din of the basar cannot be eaten until Zrikas Adam. Says Rabbi Yeshua, I know that din. I don't need a pasuk for it. I know that din from a kal v'chayim. This is eminently logical. Ma imurim dechiletnu, and the imurim, the parts of the animal that are burnt on the mizbech, dechiletnu, when you don't have them, meaning they became never, they got lost, or they become tameh. Lo ma'akve. It's not going to be ma'akiv, the eating of the korban. That's the din, right? If you lost the imurim, not the dam, but if you lost the imurim, then you'd be able to still eat the korban. Ki itnu, when you do have them available, ma'akvi, then they are going to be ma'akiv. So the din is, if something bad happened to the imurim, they are not going to be ma'akiv everything else. They're not going to hold up being able to eat from the korban. But if they are missing, then you can still go ahead and eat the rest of the korban. Dam, but with regards to dam, dechi leise, when it's not available, ma'akiv, it is ma'akiv, says Rabbi Yeshua, because that's his din. Meaning he holds that it's ma'akiv. If you don't have the dam, then you cannot have the basar at all. It says ki ise, when it's there, ma'akiv. How much more so is it indispensable? Meaning you are not going to be able to eat from the korban. He says, I know this from the rest of the dinim. If dam and basar both need to be present and tahar in order for the korban to continue to operate, so then I can say kal v'chomer from the emurim, because if something bad happened to the emurim, in all other cases you'd be able to still eat from the korban. So dam is more chomer than emurim, and therefore this is the kal v'chomer. Rabbi Eliezer, according to Rabbi Eliezer, milsa da asir b'kal v'chomer. This is a fundamental difference of what in English I call it exegesis, right? Of biblical exegesis, of understanding the psukim. Rabbi Eliezer milsa da asir b'kal v'chomer is something that is a kal v'chomer tarach v'kosav la. Sometimes the Torah will go out of its way to write anyway. Sometimes, even though something could be learned out of the pasuk from a kal v'chomer, the Torah is going to write it anyway. Rabbi Yeshua, according to Rabbi Yeshua, kol heicha deika lemedrash, any time that you have a medrash, you can interpret it darshina. You are obligated to do so, and therefore the Torah, we don't assume that the Torah has anything that is written in it that you could have learned out logically from somewhere else in the Torah. That's Rabbi Yeshua's Torah, which means that according to Rabbi Yeshua, every single din in the Torah, every word in the Torah, and every halacha that we learn out of the Torah is either this is exactly what the Torah wanted you to say, or this is a drasha that you need to learn from it because you couldn't have known this otherwise. So now we can get to our discussion that we have to now ask the question, maybe our mission is not like the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua. How? So, premise number one, the Kevin Amar, since Rabbi Yeshua says, Ba'inan Tarti, that you need both the dam and the basar. They are indispensable. And you need both of them in order to be able to be Mekayim the mitzvah at all, right? For all of the Qur'ans. That was number one. V'tzitz achilas lemeratze. And the tzitz does not help you, this is what we discussed yesterday, does not help you with regards to the achilos, with regards to the parts of the korban that are eaten. So if the korbanos can be brought in a state of tumah, cool. But the korbanos that are brought in a state of tumah are only the parts that go on the mizbech, with the exception of korban Pesach. But the achila part doesn't work. But Rabbi Yeshua holds that if you don't have the achila, if you don't have the basar, then you cannot have the dam. And now you have a problem. Heichi asib betuma. How would you ever be able to bring it in a state of tumah? Because if the tzitz doesn't help you for the achilas, it only helps you with bringing the korban. And Rabbi Yeshua holds that you need both the dam and the basar to be tahar in order to be able to bring. You can't do zrikas adam if you cannot eat from the basar. So our Mishnah must be not according to the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua. That is the question of the Gemara. So far today we have dealt with the question. Says the Gemara, option number one to explain this. I feel the time of Rabbi Yeshua. You can even say that our mission is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua. How? Rabbi Yeshua holds hatzitz meratze al ha'olim. That Rabbi Yeshua holds that it's true that the tzitz doesn't help with achilos, but it does help with the olim, those things that are brought up onto the mizbech. So even though he holds that the achilos you wouldn't be able to help with, anything that's brought onto the mizbech, you would be able to have the tzitz help you with. Rabbi Yeshua holds that the tzitz is going to help with anything that's brought to the mizbech, which includes, and this is the operative piece, both dam, the blood that's going to be thrown, and the emurim, and the parts of the korban, the basa of the korban that's brought in the mizbech. So it's true that the achilas aren't going to happen because they're still in a state of tumah, but the zrikas adam can occur and the hakravas emurim can occur because the tzitz is going to help with that. Says the Gemara, Hateinach zvachim. That's all good and well for sacrifices, for things that are brought in the mizbech. They have basa, they have dam. The ika olim, there's things that go up into the mizbech, meaning the emurim of the korbanos. Ela omer shtei lechem. But what are you going to do with the korban omer? The korban omer is barley. Now, strictly speaking, Rashi points out that there was some of the korban omer that was brought onto the mizbech, but that would only be in accordance with dam, but not emurim, meaning the part that's left aside is not brought up. Meaning everything that's brought on the mizbech there is burnt up as dam. That would, Rashi says, that's the correspondence. But the question becomes even stronger with shtei alechem, which is not even brought on the mizbech at all. The shtei alechem is not brought on the mizbech. That's just they would make the shtei alechem on Shavuos, and they would do hanafa. They would wave it, and then they would distribute it to be eaten. The leka olim, there's nothing that's brought in the mizbech. Ma'ikal memer. How are you going to say that the tzitz is going to help with that? How could this be brought in the state of tumah? Amri. So I'll tell you, says the Gemara. Ki Amar Rabbi Yeshua, when Rabbi Yeshua says nami devayin and tarti, that we require both dam and basar bezvachim. He only says this din by zvachim. B'menachos lo Amar. He didn't say that this is the case by menachos, meaning meal offerings. It's only true by korbanos. By korbanos, you need to have dam and basar. By the omer and the shtei alechem, you don't need it. There's no pasuk that tells me that. Says Gemara, really? Menachos lo Amar, did he not say the same din by menachos? V'atnan. We have a mission that says nitmu shiara, that if the remainder of the flour, once they did kmitza, so they pulled out the kmitza, the scoopful that's going to be made into the mincha, and then you have the leftover part there that was eaten by the kohanim. So nitmu shiara, if the leftover part that's supposed to be eaten by the kohanim becomes tummy of the shara or becomes lost, Kemidas Rabbi Eliezer, according to the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, that holds that the dam and the basar are independent of each other, kshera, the mincha is still going to be kosher. Kemidas Rabbi Yeshua psula, but according to the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua, this whole thing would be possible because we do compare the dam and the basar to the mincha and the shiurim of the mincha and the leftovers of the mincha that are going to be eaten by the kohanim. So we do compare these things. There's the dam that's put in the mizbech and then the achila that's eaten by the kohanim. We do see that he holds the same thing. Says the Gemara, kemidas veloy kemidas. It's according to his view, and it's also not 100% according to his view. Kemidas Rabbi Yeshua. It's according to the view of Rabbi Yeshua that you need both dam and basar, meaning veloy kemidas Rabbi Yeshua, but it's not exactly like Rabbi Yeshua. The il Rabbi Yeshua bezvachim amar. He said this din in zvachim in menachos lo amar. He didn't say this din in menachos. Ve'ilo hai tana savar, but this tana that's teaching this discussion, savar afilu b'menachos. He holds that it's even in menachos. Rabbi Yeshua doesn't hold that it's true in menachos. That the tana that's quoting him, in a later generation tana that's quoting him, says that that he holds himself, meaning the author of the Mishnah, says that this is true about menachos as well. Says the Gemara, well, okay, who's this tana? Umanu hai tana de kai kavasi. Umachmir tvemine. Who is this tana? This unnamed tana that holds like him with regards to the dam and basar both needing to be tahar in order for either of them to work. Umachmir tvemine, but it's more machmir than him when it comes to menachos. V'oid, and furthermore, Tanya, we have a brisa that says, Amr Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says, Roya ani es divri Rabbi Eliezer. I agree with the words of Rabbi Eliezer. I hold like Rabbi Eliezer. B'menachos uv'zvachim, with regards to both menachos and zvachim. V'divrei Rabbi Yeshua, and I agree with Rabbi Yeshua b'zvachim u'menachos, and I agree with Rabbi Yeshua in zvachim and menachos. How does this make any sense? So divrei Rabbi Eliezer b'zvachim, I agree with Rabbi Eliezer in zvachim. Shai Amr, because he holds with regards to zvachim, dam afal b'she'ein sham basa. He holds that you can offer the dam even though there's no basar. V'divrei Rabbi Yeshua b'zvachim, and I agree with Rabbi Yeshua in zvachim. Shai Amr im ein dam ein basar. That if there's no dam, then there is no basar. Meaning, if it's not there, then there's no then you cannot bring the basar. Im ein basar ein dam. And if there's no basar, then there's no dam. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer menachos. The words of Rabbi Eliezer with regards to menachos shari omer, because he holds kometz af al pi she'en shiraim, that you do the kmitza, you and you can use that kmitza. Even though the shiraim became tamei, divrei Rabbi Yeshua menachos, and Rabbi Yeshua's opinion of menachos is shaya omer im ein kometz. If there's no kometz, ein shiraim or shiyarim. If there's no kometz, then there's no shiyarim. Im ein shiyarim ein kometz. If there's no shiyarim, then there's no kometz. Meaning, we have two problems here. Problem number one is you can't say that there's some unnamed Tana that holds like Rabbi Yeshua and is even more machal than him in menachos, and then you have the testimony of Rabbi Yossi, who explained out the opinions of both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, that Rabbi Yeshua disagrees both with zvachim and menachos, meaning he's machal with zvachim and menachos, which again leads us to the problem that we're having with our Mishnah, that our Mishnah is obviously not the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua, because how would he ever be able to agree? How would he ever be able to concede that you could bring the Omer and the Shtei Alechem on the Mizbeach in a state of Tumah? Says the Gemara, Ela Kasavar Rabbi Yeshua, you must hold, if you want to say that the Mishnah is like Rabbi Yeshua, that the tzitzis meratze al Ela Kasavar Rabbi Yeshua must hold, hatzitz meratze ala oilin ve'ala achilas, that the tzitz helps you both with the olin and the achilas. It helps you both with the things that go on the mizbeach and the things that are eaten, meaning both the dam and the basar that the tzitz is going to help you with. If this is so, amai k'midas Rabbi Yeshua psula, then why do you say according to the view of Rabbi Yeshua that this would all be possible? Meaning, how are you ever going to have a situation that this is going to be possible? Ovid v'sarif. Now, in the case of Ovid v'sarif, if the problem wasn't tumah, but the problem was that you lost some piece of the korban, or if a part of the korban became burnt, then he would still hold im ein dam ein basar ein dam, if some of it was lost or burnt. But it's true, Rabbi Yeshua would tell you that if something became tameh, then the tzitz is going to be meratzeh. The tzitz is going to help on the olim and the ochlin. Says the Gemara, Ela nitma leman ketani. So then, according to who does do we say this din? Ela nitma leman ketani. According to who is this opinion that says Rabbi Eliezer, that according to Rabbi Eliezer, right? Rashi. The Rashi over here, Leman Ketani La Rabbi Eliezer, Ella Nitma, with regards to Nitma, Leman Ketani, who, according to who do we hold, does Rabbi Yossi hold? Le Rabbi Eliezer Pshita, that according to Rabbi Eliezer it's obvious. Hashta Yesh Lemer Ovid V'Sarav Deleitnu, Machshir Rabbi Eliezer, Nitma De Isei Mibaya. So the question is as follows. With regards to the case of Nitma, Leman Ketani, according to whose opinion do we say this din of if the korban became tamei, it's going to be possible? Le Rabbi Eliezer, according to Rabbi Eliezer Pshita, it's obvious, meaning the din is obvious, it's going to be okay. Hashti Yesh Leimar, since you're going to tell me Ovid v'Sarav that if it was lost or if it was burnt, deleisnu, where they don't exist at all, Machshir Rabbi Eliezer is going to say the whole korban is still going to be kosher. Nitma, the ise. According to Rabbi Eliezer, it became Tameh. The ise, where it's in front of you. Mibaya, do you really need to teach this din? So we say, Ela Pshita le Rabbi Yoshua. It must be that this is Poshet, according to Rabbi Yoshua. V'ktani Psula. And nevertheless, he says that it's possible. Meaning, what we just said is that it's obviously... hold on a second. It is obvious that according to Rabbi Yoshua, that it's going to be... it's obvious that the price is talking about Rabbi Yoshua, and therefore, and he says that it's possible. Va'oid. And furthermore, we have an additional kasha. Tanya, we have an abrisa. Rabbi Yoshua says, "Kol zvachim shebedar, all the zvachim that are in the Torah, bein shenit ma basar, whether the basar became tamei, v'chelev kayim, and the chelev is still around, bein shenit ma chelev, or the chelev of the korban became tamei, ubasar kayim, and the basar is still around and good. Zarikas adam, you still sprinkle the blood on the mizbech, you throw the blood on the mizbech. Aval nitmu tarvayu, but if both of them became tamei, loy, you would not be able to say that. Alma, that comes out because Rabbi Yeshua holds einat tzitzaras al olim v'lo achilas. Now we're back to square one. According to Rabbi Yeshua, the tzitz is not going to be able to help you, not with the olim and not with the achilas. So this whole line of reasoning to be able to defend that the Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua is out, because he's going to say that the tzitz isn't going to help you, and if the dam became tamei, sorry, if a part of it became tamei, you must hold that it's not going to help. And the question of achilas versus olim, we had a lot of questions about. So this whole line of reasoning is out. Says the Gemara, Elala Elam Rabbi Yeshua he masnisin. Yeah, no, we can still explain that the whole Mishnah is according to Rabbi Yeshua, but like Kasha, there's no question. It's a question of lechatchila and b'diavad. Ki Amar Rabbi Yeshua lechatchila, where Rabbi Yeshua said all of these dinim, these are all dinim lechatchila, diavad lie, but he didn't say any of these dinim b'diavad, and that's split b'diavad and lechatchila. And Rabbi Yeshua holds that the dam and the basa have to go together. That's only din lechatchila. But b'diavad, it would still be okay. And Pesachim Mizbarach, we will continue with the question of the Gemara Uminat Temra, the Shana Rabbi Yeshua and lechatchila b'diavad. Who says that there is a distinction between lechatchila and b'diavad for the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua? Pesachim Mizbarach, we will continue with that din of Shabbos Kodesh. Everybody should have a beautiful day, a beautiful Shabbos. We'll see you in Shul. We'll see you, please God, Motzei Shabbos as well.